So David, area variance 25, Dirks Terrace, SBL 87.10-3-5. Applicant is seeking an area variance for 0.04 acres relief from minimum coverage required for an accessory apartment in an R1/2 zone. Application has been circulated to the board. Is the applicant? Step right up. Okay. Tell us your name, give us a little bit of a rundown, what you're looking to do. Oh, yeah, please turn the microphone on.
There you go.
Okay, all right, good. Hi, my name is David Ludwig. This is my wife, Lisa Ludwig. Last year, we started a addition on our house for our daughter and son-in-law. We went through all the building permits and the building, had the, what do you call it, the plans. We went through an architect and did everything the right way, had a contractor. Everything progressed well. And then towards the end, all of a sudden there was, oh, wait a second. There was nothing said about a kitchen on the plans. And then all of a sudden.
A secondary kitchen for an accessory.
Yeah, the
Okay,
upstairs.
okay, just, okay.
Yep, so we were like, I'm not the architect, I'm not the contractor, so I don't know exactly what happened there. So
That's where we're here.
that's why we were here, because it should have been on the plans. I don't know why it wasn't on the plans. I don't know what happened. Talked to the contractor and I get this. The architect, I don't know where he's at, what he had to say about the
No.
thing.
Yeah, I don't know
So
either.
I'm not really sure.
Okay, so the town, during that approval process, the town was not aware that you were,
I mean, they never said anything to us. They came and inspected and did all the inspections and, we did it. We had a building permit and everything everything legal.
Mhm.
So I don't know what happened here. I don't know how it fell through the cracks. So, I mean, that's why we have an architect to make sure these things, you have an apartment, where are you gonna cook?
right, well, that's part of what makes it, part of our code is what makes it an accessory apartment, having certain amenities.
Right.
And it does now, right? It has a kitchen
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, do we have a site plan for this? Do we have?
To him, I think a special permit to build this.
Okay, Yep, I think I have. Okay, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. I'd like to see a sketch of the proposed apartment. Just a layout sketch where everything is located.
Okay.
It's not a big ask, but we'll still have to go through the process. Does any member of the board have a question, concern, comment for the applicant?
I'd just like to see.
Okay. Like to entertain a motion to set a public hearing
So move.
for next month?
Oh.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we'll see you next month.
Okay, so come back with
Come back with a sketch.
okay, architect sketch?
Yeah, we'll come back with your plans and we'll go
With the
from there.
plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we can
All
make
right.
it work with that.
You can write, you could pencil in on the plans. If you know something where something is, this doesn't show it, just pencil it in.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Don't go to architect. You don't
Okay.
have to.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Thank you very much. Right. One everybody's been waiting for. Appealing determination made by the building department director regarding whether a pet crematory is considered a service business. Review status, public comment circulated to board, public hearing scheduled for tonight, and open a public hearing. So before we open a public hearing, I want to make sure everybody understands. This is a public hearing on an appeal related to the proposed Heavenly Heart pet cremation project. Before opening the public hearing, I'll make some remarks so that everyone here understands what we have been asked to decide, what will happen tonight, and what will happen after tonight. First, the only thing we've been asked to decide whether the proposed Heavenly Heart pet cremation project is considered a service business use under the definition in the Town of Lloyd zoning code. This is all we're deciding, just whether the proposed project fits under that definition. Under the zoning code, service business is defined as follows: a business or nonprofit organization that provides services to the public, either on or off premises. Service business does not include retail business, restaurants, warehouses, offices, or other uses separately listed in the use table. Again, this is the only question this board must answer. We are not reviewing or approving the Heavenly Heart project. Or its impacts. We do not approve or disapprove of the project. We just decide whether it is a service business. Pardon? The reason I'm stressing this is because when we open the public hearing, I respectfully ask that all of you who want to speak focus your comments on why the Heavenly Heart project is or is not a service business. This appeal came to us after the applicant for the Heavenly Heart Pet Cremation Project submitted an application to the Town of Lloyd Planning Board. That is a different board than this one. It is the planning board that is authorized to review and approve or disapprove projects under the town zoning code. When the application was submitted, the job of Dave Barton in the Town of Lloyd Building Department was to say whether the proposed project was a business that provides services to the public, either on or off premise. Dave Barton thought that the project fit the definition of service business, so the planning board began its review of the project. When during that review, the public questioned whether the project is a service business, the planning board put its review of the project on hold and asked this board to decide whether or not the proposed project is a service business. My point in saying all of this is to help you understand how the process works and how this appeal came to this board. Everyone in the town has done their job, and the public has began as is being heard tonight in the single and limited question of whether the Heavenly Heart Pet Cremation project is a service business. Everybody's on the same page, right? All right. If this board ultimately decides that the Heavenly Heart Pet Cremation Project is a service business, the project will go back to the planning board, and that board will review it and decide whether or not it should be approved. If this board decides that the project is not a service business, the application may need to seek what's called a use variance from this board before the planning board would resume its review. All right, so what's going to happen tonight, when I finish speaking, this board will open a public hearing, and everyone who wants to come to speak, we ask that you state your name, where you live, for the record. Please speak clearly into the microphone. It's right there. As the meeting is being recorded, we ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. We will ask you to wrap up if you're getting too close to running over the time. If someone before you has made the same comment as you, we ask you to consider limiting your comments if possible. That's up to you. We ask that everyone be respectful of each other's comments and to remember that the only question we are trying to answer is the Heavenly Heart Pet Cremation Project a service business or not? The board will listen to every comment made and no decision will be made tonight. The board will not even have any discussion because we want to make sure that we've reviewed everything before we have that discussion. We will not be responding to questions as it is not the purpose of this hearing. The only purpose of this hearing is to hear what you have to say, and we want to give everyone the chance to be heard. When everyone who wants to speak has had their chance, we will leave the hearing open until our July 10th meeting and move on to other matters that are on the agenda tonight. What happens after tonight, we will continue to accept any written public comment until June 26th, 2 weeks from today, so that this board has ample time to review everything that has been submitted in writing on this appeal. We have asked our attorney to consider all the comments that have been received and to prepare recommendations for the board's consideration at its July 12th meeting. That recommendation will be posted on the town's website in advance of the meeting on July 12th. This board will provide another opportunity for public comment. After we are satisfied that the public has been heard, we will close the public hearing, and this board will discuss everything and make a decision on the appeal. That may or may not happen at our July meeting. All right. Like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion. We have the public
Do I have a second?
hearing. Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any member of the public that wishes to be heard, come to the microphone. Like I had stated before, state your name, your address clearly.
Hi. My name is Lacey Mathey. I live at 3 Tilson Avenue. I'm a homeowner and I have 3 children in the district. I was one of the first people to hear about the pet crematorium after Mr. Epperson filed his first appeal, and I've been doing nothing but researching it. And I have a research background from graduate school, so I'm not messing around. This is all I've been doing and I'm hyper-focused. I would really like to respectfully urge you guys to consider denying the code enforcement's classification that this is a service business. This is not the plain meaning of service business within our town code. It is, let's see here. The destruction of dead animals into ash via combustion at 1,400 to 1,800 feet. It's a process indistinguishable in function, equipment, emissions, regulation from human cremation. The DEC, EPA, and scientific studies make no meaningful distinction between human and pet cremation. This is not a neighborhood service. It is an industrial process and is reflected as such by the classification by the DEC on their own air facility permits as, quote, Standard Industrial Classification Code 7261, Funeral Service and Crematories. I have gone through every single pet crematory in the entire state. I've cross-referenced it with their air facility permits to see which ones actually cremate on site, and not a single other municipality has classified this as a simple service business. They are all either special permits or they're in manufacturing, industrial, airport industrial. Like they're all, I have a whole spreadsheet I will give you guys. It's all documented. They are not, they're not even just like, oh, maybe they didn't have service business in their code. No, they did. They did. And they saw that it was a distinction. I have several different examples of this from planning board minutes, which I've been going through. But I find that one of them that's probably the most telling with a really great quote is the town of Catskill, because they recently had a pet crematorium applying for the town first to the planning board. And it required a special use permit, obviously in the industrial zone. But one of the things that they also said was that it does not fit neatly into any of our categories. And I think we really need to think about that, because the idea that this heavy incineration-based business that's regulated by not just the DEC, but also the EPA, is your standard community service business that was envisioned by the people who wrote our zoning laws. Our zoning laws are meant to protect us from incompatible uses within our town. And that's sort of the comfort that we all have when we move to a place, that we know that there are laws there that will protect us from something crazy happening, like, you know, I don't know, an animal incineration factory. The other thing is that the town does not allow the importation of dead animals into it. So it defines refuse within our town code as dead animals. It then goes on to call, and I want to make sure that I don't get this wrong. Let me go into this. Sorry. Nope, I have it here. I don't know. Anyway, they go, oh, solid waste. Thank you. Thank you, brain. They then go on to define solid waste as including refuse, which thereby would mean that dead animals are solid waste. It is prohibited in our town code to bring in solid waste from outside the town into the town unless you have a special permission, like the municipal one on, what is it? I'm forgetting the one where the trash place,
Lily Lake Road.
yeah, Lily Lake Road. That one has a special allowance to be there, which was given by the town under law. The idea that there's so many parts of this that do not fit neatly under these different laws within our zoning code, that it's almost hard to pick one as to why it is not accurate. The only final thing I'm saying, because I think that dinging was me going over my time over and over again, and I really do appreciate you. I'm going to give you a copy of this. I have tons and tons of just zoning research, no emissions or anything like that I can give to all of you. The last thing that I'm going to say is that, you know, in David Barton's explanation of why he thought it was a service business, he lists that there would be a small retail section. The definition in our town code of a service business explicitly excludes retail. So they have, and then the lawyer for the applicant, in his statement, he wrote that it's not about retail, that actually the business is incineration. Cremation is the business. So the two of them, those don't make sense. They counteract each other, right? You can't be both a service business and have retail, and that was your basis, was because you did retail, but you're not allowed to have retail as a service business, or that's not your classification. I mean, it's just, there's so many things here that when we really look at the letter of the law and we really look at the code, it doesn't make sense. And I'm not angry or against anyone. I don't think that any person involved with this right now is a negligent or malicious person. I think this is our first pet crematorium. And this is happening all over the country with these manufacturers of these cremation units taking advantage of towns not having these things in their zoning laws. There's another case happening right now in Fairview, New Jersey. There's another one happening somewhere in the state. I can give you the name later, but they're literally saying the same things that we're saying, that they don't understand how we're talking about this. They don't understand how it fits in the zoning. They feel like they're not being listened to and that nobody's really answering their questions. And that's actually even on the frequently asked questions of this incinerator company that this applicant is using. It says, you know, you should look at zoning, blah, blah. Then it says, some towns haven't even thought of zoning. We will help you get zoning. This is a business. They need to sell units. This is exactly why we have zoning code, right? This is exactly why, because their goal as a business is to make their profit, and that's great. We live in America. Our goal as residents is to have a quiet enjoyment of our properties and a safe and healthy community with lots of businesses and services. We all want that. But those two things, that's why the law is there, because otherwise those things would compete with each other as to which capitalism versus, you know, laws. Anyway. Yeah, I guess that's it. I have more, but I don't think you want to hear it. That's,
Kind of.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting me go over. I really appreciate it. And I will send through Wendy, I guess.
Yeah. Sarah,
Sarah.
thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Megan Quinn. I'm a resident, 10 Woodside Place. And this makes no sense to me because cremation isn't allowed in our town of humans. So why are we cremating animals when we're not allowed to cremate humans in our town? I think, it's very clearly defined in the definitions of the terms in the zoning code that you're not allowed cremation on site at the funeral homes. None of them cremate. I think sometimes people think they do because in your head you think, oh, all funeral homes do that, but they send the deceased remains out for cremation. So funeral homes in our town do not cremate. So the fact is sort of like what Lacey said, we haven't been tested with an animal crematorium before. Of course, we don't have this in our definitions and in our zoning code. But why would we allow animals to be cremated when humans can't be cremated? A service business is something that provides services to the public. An incinerator is not a service business. It's serving veterinarians, humane society, things like that. People aren't going there to, take their animal. It's mostly bulk incineration. That's not a service. That's a facility that's, burning things, unfortunately, next to a school. And, it just doesn't make sense the way the town code is because you're not allowed to bring dead animals into the town for a commercial operation. It's specifically spelled out because dead animals are refuse. Refuse is solid waste. And it says the disposal of solid waste or any other materials set forth in 82.4 or any hazardous or toxic materials, blah, 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 which was conveyed into, brought, or collected from areas outside the town of Lloyd is prohibited. So does this mean that this crematory is only going to be incinerating animals that die in the town of Lloyd? Because that is not going to be a feasible business structure. This applicant wants to, the only way to make money is burning bulk animals from veterinary offices. So it really doesn't fit our first, just the vibe of it is way off. Let's just say that. But zoning, it makes no sense at all because can't cremate humans. And also it's actually prohibited. So thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Joan Kelly, 5 Grapeview Lane. The subject of this public hearing is the building department's determination that a crematorium is a service building and as such is permitted in the GB zone. I served on the Town of Lloyd zoning board for almost 20 years, so I'd like to offer my opinion based on the zoning code. Section 112 defines the term allowable uses. This is what's permitted in the GB zone. It says allowable uses in each zoning district are set forth in the use table, which appears at the end of the chapter. This schedule is complemented as appropriate by other provisions in this chapter. The uses that are not listed are prohibited. So if it's not listed in the use table, it's not allowed. And there are symbols there. So the use table lists the uses that are permitted in the GB zone, and the service business is permitted. When you read the definition of service business, it says, a business or nonprofit organization that provides services to the public, either on or off the premises. Service business did not include retail businesses, restaurants, warehouses, offices, or other uses listed separately in the use table. That's key. If you go down and look at the list uses that are listed in the table as prohibited, one that's prohibited is light industry. This is defined as manufacture, assembly, treatment, processing, or packaging of products that does not emit objectionable levels of smoke, noise, dust, odor, glare, or vibration beyond the property boundaries. The applicant insists that his operation is not going to do any of these things, but he is processing. The crematorium facility is a light industry, not a service. Raw materials are delivered to the facility processes them, and the finished product is sold. It's a light industry, or an industry in this case. Another use that's not permitted in the GB zone is funeral home. Funeral home is defined as a building used to prepare deceased human beings for burial or cremation, and in which wakes and funerals may be held. Secondary uses may include the display of the deceased, consummation of rituals connected therewith before burial or cremation, the storage of funeral vehicles, funeral supplies. However, the definition of funeral home does not allow cremation on site. So cremation on site is not listed as a permitted use. Since it's not allowable, it's not permitted in the zoos, and the zoning board interpretation should be cremation on site is not allowed in the GB zone. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think some things have been stated already, but I'll be
Name,
quick.
name and.
My name is Kimberly Goodall. I'm a lifelong resident of Highland. I went through all of the schools here, elementary, middle, and high school.
Just need.
I live on 19 Dogwood Knolls.
Thank you.
Okay, so I learned about this just before the planning meeting, so I had an opportunity to go to that. One thing that stands out most, the applicant's statement regarding the incinerator when it's functioning properly. That's what's most concerning. What happens when it's not functioning properly? What adverse effects are our children, our community going to inflict from a malfunction? Is it really worth the risk of our children's health and safety? Beyond the safety risks, let's talk about the zoning itself. According to the current zoning codes in our town, 100-8 terms defined, it states under funeral home, quote, the definition of funeral home does not allow cremation on site, unquote. So if a funeral home in our town is not allowed to perform cremations, how and why are we even considering building an entire business around cremation, especially in such close proximity to an elementary school? Our zoning laws are in place to protect the character of our town, the well-being of our residents. Bending those rules for this proposal would set a dangerous precedent and send a message that our children's health is negotiable. I respectfully urge you to deny this application. You all have the power to uphold the integrity of our zoning regulations and to prioritize the safety of our children and our community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Bruce Epperson. I live at 314 Bellevue Road. I'm one of the 4 co-appellants. We are faced with a contradiction. A service business is defined as a business that produces services to the public not otherwise defined. A principal use is defined as a specifically defined use. Thus, a service business must be a specifically defined use that is not specifically defined. Let me assure you from 25 years of experience in planning and zoning that these kind of conundrums happen far more often than you would think in zoning. We are not here tonight to solve this riddle. What we are here to decide is who should solve that riddle. Mr. Barton believes he has both the power and the ability to make that decision. We, on the other hand, believe that unless he can find a clear, straightforward, and unambiguous mandate in the town code, literally a direction to allow a pet crematory, his duty is to reach into his desk, pull out an application for use variance, and give it to the applicant. If I am correct, this riddle will be resolved by a group of our town's citizens after reading evidence and hearing testimony, following clear criteria and procedure identified in state statute, and issuing written findings. They will apply logic, but also their own beliefs and community values. In essence, they will be sitting as a jury. In my 5 years of experience as an attorney, I found juries to be a pretty damn good way of getting through the fog and to the bottom of things. It just so happens in this situation that jury will be you, the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I guess you can consider this to be a jury summons. Will you check that box that says, yes, I am available, I will report? Or will you, like so many of us in these troubled times, say, no, that's not my job, let somebody else deal with it, I don't want to be bothered? It's up to you. Will you sit as a jury on this decision? Or will you pass it along to an administrator, a functionary, who will make the decision by himself without criteria, without justification? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Rod Jacobson, and I am here tonight to speak strongly against the proposal.
Your address as well, please.
Oh, sorry, 146 New Paltz Road. I'm here tonight to speak strongly against the proposal to site a pet crematorium directly next to Highland Elementary School. Zoning is meant to be restrictive and define rules of the road and should, as a result, be very strictly interpreted. It is not something that there's room for freelancing, and I think that the other people who have spoken tonight spoke very clearly about that fact. Highland Elementary is not just a school building. It is the heartbeat of our town. It's where our kids take their first steps into growing up. My daughter actually made this bracelet for good luck tonight because she is a student at Highland Elementary. The town fields are where what makes Highland Highland happens. It's where we have our celebrations. We come together in a community. To put a crematorium next door to those things is not just bad planning, it's an act of disregard for the spirit of the town. I am also on the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, and in that role, I'm not speaking officially, but I have had a lot of time to review the comprehensive plan that the town has worked on for several years. Smart development means growth that reflects the character and priorities of the community. And we've already spoken clearly and collectively through our comprehensive planning process. That plan calls for protecting the integrity of our neighborhoods, prioritizing walkability, buffering schools from incompatible uses, and strengthening our sense of place. This proposal does the opposite. It turns our town center into a drive-through for private industry instead of a destination built on shared prosperity. A facility that brings no significant jobs, no meaningful services to our residents, and no alignment with the long-term vision that we've all worked hard to create. We cannot let Lloyd become a town where the developers and other interests are playing with our zoning rules and trying to put us in a position to set precedent. Our zoning laws are clear, and I'm not going to revisit it since everybody else has already spoken to that, and I'm sure more will. We should be investing in zoning and development that brings people together. We should be saying yes to small businesses that enliven our hamlet, yes to preserving the charm that sets Highland apart, and yes to the families who have chosen to make this their home. Let us not be remembered as the generation that said, the zoning isn't explicit, so let's just be lax in how we interpret it. Instead, let us be the generation in this town that says we deserve better, and our kids do too. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Will Gunther and I live at 7 Tina Drive. I'm a resident and a parent. I have one student currently in kindergarten and another that will begin attending Highland Elementary in 2026. She also has asthma. I'm not going to speak particularly to the zoning laws. Many other people spoke very well about that already, but some of the impacts that I'm concerned about that may affect my decision to continue to live in Highland. I strongly oppose the construction of the crematorium adjacent to the elementary school fields due to the emissions of fine particulate matter known as PM 2.5. The placement will create unacceptable risks to health and development of our students and community members. PM 2.5 is particulate matter in the air that's smaller than 2.5 microns. Several thousands of these molecules could fit across a period at the end of a sentence. These particles travel deep into the respiratory tract, causing short and long-term damage, and these effects are cumulative. Those at the highest risk for complications include this wide range of people: children, teenagers, older adults, people with heart or respiratory problems, pregnant people, and those who exercise or work outdoors, like our children at recess. PM 2.5 may lead to impaired lung development, asthma, and bronchitis, as well as brain development. Standards as set by the EPA say short-term exposure can be safe at a higher level of 35 micrograms per meter cubed per day, where over the long term, the safe exposure level is much, much lower at 9. The proximity of the crematorium and its long-term emission status presents significant risks to students and staff of HES, in addition to the residents of Highland who live nearby. All PM 2.5 can cause damage, but the cremation process will also produce PM 2.5 of dangerous contaminants that cannot be broken down by cremation and other processes, such as arsenic, cadmium, copper, mercury, and lead. The lead levels released can be up to 50 times greater than those reported from industrial boilers and furnaces. And as I understand this crematorium is set to operate, it will be at a large scale and high level. This zoning is not appropriate, and I urge you to deny variance or permit for the construction of this crematorium. Thank you.
Good evening. Craig Ramsey, 20 Dogwood Knolls. I believe that when we're dealing with ambiguity, as I get the sense we are, and that ambiguity is up to interpretation, when we interpret it, we have to do so in a manner that is rational. There has to be a rational interpretation. And I believe that rationality has to be based on what the board meant when they wrote the code. Being totally unable to predict that the day might come that a crematorium might be proposed certainly explains why it might be absent from the code. So we have to look at that with, as I said, rationality. That rationality has to be based on what did the town mean in the code when they promulgated the code. So I look at the board's intention in section 100, Mark 5, which says, quote, "This chapter is enacted to promote and protect the public health, safety, convenience, aesthetics, natural, agricultural, and cultural resources, amenities, and general welfare of the people. It is intended to implement the town's planning goals and objectives as expressed, of course, in the Town of Lloyd Comprehensive Plan." I think the interpretation that this could be a service-based proposal is not rational because it fails to take into account and to promote the public health, the safety, the convenience of the people of Town of Lloyd, as outlined in the explanation of the code by the Town of Lloyd. So again, in the absence of a clearly defined, concretely measurable definition of service and how a crematorium might fall into that category, I think we have to look at, as I said, rationality, and I believe this fails the test. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Davis. I live at 11 Smith Terrace. I have just a simple message. I think that everyone that has come before me has expressed the views of the town very eloquently, and I can't do it any better than that. But I will just say one simple thing to each of you. Just, William, please make the right decision for our town and our children. Russell, please make the right decision for our town and our kids. John, please make the right decision for our town and our kids. Paul, please make the right decision for our town and our kids. Sean, please make the right decision for our town and our kids. Jessica, please make the right decision for our town and our kids. Corey, please make the right decision for our town and our kids. And I'm sorry, I don't know your names, but if you're involved in the decision making as well, then I'll say the same to you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Oh, boy.
Good evening, everyone. We're representing the Highland Central School District. Mike Bacassi is the trustee. Jen Becker is in the back, the trustee. I don't believe there's any other school board members here that had National Junior Homicide and such. But we're here to.
Al, you forgot to tell us your name.
My name is Alan Barone, Mike Bacassi. I live on 26 Tilson Avenue. Mike.
21 Mayor Drive.
Thank you.
We're here to justify the reason that the zoning board will approve what everybody else said in the ordinance, and they said it eloquently, that service business has to be truly defined for you to make the right decision. We sent out a letter from the school board. I'm not sure if every board member got that letter. If not, I could read it. But basically, it spells out our concern. We're adjacent to the proposed site. There's 650 children in that building. There's over 100 staff members in that building. At times, there's probably 300 or 400 parents in that building. And that happens multiple times throughout the year. Our concern is, of course, like a lot of the other residents has mentioned, is emissions. We're very concerned about that. We as trustees of the school board have to look out for the safety and well-being of almost 1,650 children in all our buildings. We don't take the life and safety of those children and those staff members lightly. If we have concerns with emissions, we deal with it. We have concerns with toxic chemicals, we deal with it. We can't deal with this. We're not the voice to make this decision. But we have no control over the decision that the zoning board will make on the definition of a service business. We as school board members can make that decision within our building for the safety and well-being of, like I said, over 1,650 students and 350 staff members. A large number. We do it throughout the building. Our buses are controlled with admissions. We control that. State regulated, we follow the rule. So we're asking you, for the safety and the well-being of our students who are a couple hundred feet away, and we don't know what the true level of emissions would be, to settle down on that site and cause more harm to our children who are already exposed to a lot of the elements out there in this society that we have today. We don't want to expose them to anything more than that. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Just wanted to say that odors in and around the school are extremely problematic. When staff report odors and you start hearing about symptoms and things like that, after a while, there's an obligation for us to test. At that elementary school a few years ago, we had an issue and with humidity. Now, it was in acceptable levels, but staff kept reporting that it was too humid. They weren't feeling well. Mold, spores, this kind, and we have an obligation eventually to test. I can't tell you, the cost of testing that year alone inside the building was in excess of $70,000. I don't want to entertain a situation where people are reporting odors, and it doesn't even have to be coming from that business. It's just, that's where people's minds go. And it is really an untenable situation to manage. That's why you won't find them around a school anywhere in the state. We've taken enough time. You've received our letter. You know the position of the entire school board. Our interest here is working with other community groups to solve community problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi to you all. My name is Dr. Matthew Sargent. I live at 10 Woodside Place. Our household is one of the households that's appealed this. And so I'd like to start with reading a little bit of the response that we got about this repeal. This is from David Barton. He said that he argues that the public would choose to have their animals cremated by a company that performs that service. It is unreasonable to think that a member of the public could, with any degree of success or dignity, cremate their own pet at home. He then goes on to describe how you would burn a pet on a barbecue grill in the appeal. So I'm an academic. I'm not a zoning expert. I went and checked out your zoning code. As far as dead animals goes in this town, it's considered solid waste. And so I'd ask you, if he was planning to burn solid waste at the facility, would that be a service business? If he's burning my trash, would that be a service business? If you look up cremation on your zoning code, strictly not allowed within the town. If he was burning human mammals, would that be a service business? So you probably find me to be a bit outraged here, and truly I am. I cannot believe that we received this in the mail. Such a glib response to dealing with children. I have a kindergartner in that school. So it strikes me, reading Lacey's research, there's no question why you cannot find an example of a pet crematory listed as a service business in New York State. 20 million residents in New York State, we're the only room even considering this to be a service business. So my question to you all as a parent, as someone who's going to be a neighbor at this facility, as a neighbor of the elementary school, if we can't represent the children of this town, who exactly are we representing here? Hope you take it seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before anybody else comes up, could you guys hold down your yay, all of that while they're speaking, because it kind of takes away from the process. Thank you.
My name is Jordan Depew. I live at 119 Gregory Court. I can't say what everybody in this town who's here tonight has already said. I think they've kind of laid out your argument for you on why this is not a service business. I am here to talk to you about how I've been aggrieved twice by this board and hoping to use it to this town's advantage right now. I'll go back to December of 22 and I believe November of 23. My brother and I had set a subdivision up before this board that was denied twice. After many meetings, much money spent, much time in front of here, we left here twice thinking that this was going to get approved until it wasn't twice. At that time, Dave Barton had strongly recommended that the subdivision be approved. Not the first time the board has gone against Dave Barton. I have a lot of respect for Dave. I think he may have made a mistake this time. You've already set the precedent that you do not agree with him. Also, to this board, you have also said multiple times you were going to come visit the project. You did not. I highly suggest you take what everybody says seriously tonight and do the research on this. Lastly, when you do the 5-way test that you determine this decision on, you have said, Mr. Litz, that this board does not like one negative fact against it when it comes to that test. This is self-created. I think you have plenty of room to stand on to deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Kim Bodendorf. I live at 6 Woodside Place. And I would like to actually give my minutes to her if that's allowed. I don't know the proper term. Okay,
We'd be fine with that.
okay, thanks.
Sorry, guys, I'm back. All my research. So, the city of Buffalo, Buffalo's Unified Development Ordinance treats crematories under the funeral services category, but explicitly mandates that a crematorium is considered light industrial use. Again, City of Binghamton distinguishes crematories from personal or neighborhood services. In their use table for commercial districts, personal service business is defined almost identical to our code with service business. But crematory is listed as a separate use, only allowed by special permit or not at all, depending on the district. Binghamton's neighborhood commercial code zone, general businesses are permitted as a right, but a crematorium is specially listed that requires special approval. I'm going to give you this all, so I'm not going to keep saying it, but so I was looking at the general business zone on the zoning map today, and I was thinking about how, you know, funeral homes, they're not allowed to cremate, right? What about a standalone human crematorium? If a crematorium is a service business and you're getting, and it's just as much for the public because you're getting those animals through a veterinarian, but there's a human on the other side of that. What is to stop one of our lovely, older folks' residences from installing their own crematorium on their property? Absolutely nothing, because they could just as easily be considered a service business. This is such a slippery slope that puts the town of Lloyd into such a bad position. And the costs of this, one other person did mention, if this does go back to the planning board, this will require on-site testing, not just by this individual who wants to open the business, but third-party scientific researchers. Our town is going to have to spend a lot of money on this. And what are we getting in return? Someone else's profit from not even from this town at basically the cost of our own town's reputation, our own town's character, and the health and well-being of our children and our teachers. The teachers in the town of Lloyd, I'm also on the comprehensive plan, so now I know all these little stats. The town of Lloyd, the largest employer is Lowe's, but the second largest employer in our town are teachers. And we already don't pay very much. And we have a fantastic school, but what are we going to do to our school system if we are telling them that we don't care about any health concerns and we are just going to allow an industrial process because we don't want to say, whoops, sorry, we made a mistake. How long are we going to live with that mistake? And what does it say to people who live in this town? We've all moved here. We've all been organizing together. I don't know very many people in this room, but we have all been working together to talk about this. And that is what community is about. This community does not agree with this project being called a service business. It is mind-boggling to each and every person that I speak to that it could be considered a service business because it is such a distinct business unto itself. It is not a barber shop. It is not a dry cleaner. It is not a tax accountant. This is only possible because of a large industrial incinerator. If this man were to just, he obviously can't barbecue the pets on his barbecue grill in his business, right? But without that incinerator, there is no service. This incinerator is the service. And are we going to now say that an auto body shop with spray painting can go anywhere in our general business zone? Are we going to say that large scale industrial uses are also a service because they produce a product which a person may purchase through a third party? I mean, this is crazy. I understand that nobody wants to say no. I get it. But this board has the ability to say no and then have it be done with. And it would end for all of us. Every single one of us wants this to end. This is exhausting. Exhausting. All right, now I'm gonna cry, so I'm gonna stop. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so no one, oh, more.
Hi, my name is Simon Meisel. I'm a resident of 21 Mile Hill Road. And I'm also an employee of the Highland Central School District, although I'm not here to speak in that capacity. A service business, as I'm sure we all know by now, is a business that provides services to the public. The proposed pet crematorium provides services to veterinarians, to animal shelters. This is not the public, these are other businesses. This is nuance. And where we have questions of nuance, especially with something as complicated as our zoning laws, we have to use our better judgment. And our better judgment here, I think, is quite clear cut. There's a lot of scholarship on exposure to crematorium emissions. I'm citing specifically crematoria emissions and air quality, which is a 2020 publication by researcher Jessica, or I'm sorry, not Jessica. At any rate, there's a lot of scholarship on the matter. And the consensus is that communities with direct exposure to crematoria have higher incidences of PCDDs and PCFs. These are carcinogenic chemicals. Likewise, there are other heavy metals, which my friends here at this meeting have mentioned already. But mercury comes to mind, well, appropriately, because it is a neurotoxin. So as we employ our better judgment to put an end to this matter, I hope we consider that these are chemicals which bioaccumulate, which our bodies cannot metabolize, which only ever increase in our exposure, or not really our exposure, but our children's exposure to these chemicals. To make a commitment to a pet crematorium is to make a commitment to exposing every child that goes through this district to 6 years, 9 if we count the middle school, which is in very close proximity to the elementary school, of chemicals which increase the incidence or severity of cancer, of asthma, of diabetes, of a whole host of physical and neurological developmental issues. I don't believe there's much more that needs to be said on the matter. I thank you for your time. And those of you that are associated with the district, parents, employees, spouses, I thank you for your consideration in this matter, which I'm sure hits close to home. And I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. And it hits close to home for me as well, because if this crematorium is put in place, I will be more exposed to these chemicals. I have been working for the district for 2 years now, and this decision basically is what determines whether or not I pursue a job in Highland or somewhere else. So if we want to continue elevating a community that fosters healthy children and seeks out high quality educators, this is not the way to go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Riley Monteleone. I live on Tricia Boulevard currently. I graduated Highland High School class of 2019. When my mother and father both graduated from there, so did both of my grandmothers. If there's an incinerator next to the elementary school, I would not send my future children there. If that's a deterrent for me, and I love this town, and I made use of every opportunity that the school district had to offer, I know that that's a deterrent for other families. When families are considering moving up to this area, I strongly believe that if they see that, they're more likely to choose New Paltz School District, Marlborough School District, anywhere else but Highland. I'm also glad that Simon brought up his concern in his career at Highland, because this could create a talent drain from the town of Highland. We could lose valuable, powerful teachers. We could lose talented, promising students. I don't think that this would have a positive effect on our athletics department. I think that there are just a lot of long-term effects that have not necessarily been brought up yet because the details of the technicalities are important. And I thank you for your time because I recognize that the planning board kind of pushed this on to y'all, and now the zoning board has to hear a lot that's not necessarily related to zoning. But yeah, I just really think that we need to move forward with our conscience, and not for nothing, but it's just irresponsible. I mean, we're 5 years out from a worldwide global pandemic that was a respiratory illness, and wildfires are increasing. It is not an unusual thing now to wake up and see that the skies are orange and gray and foggy. And I just don't think it's wise to add any unnecessary compounding risks. Thank you for your time.
Nope, it's in the room. Okay, Sarah, I think we have one on Zoom. Nope. Oh. Right up.
So. My name is Louis Ostrowski. I live at 5 Roberto Avenue. And I apologize I was late because I was putting my kids to bed, my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old, who next year my daughter will be starting Highland schools. This crematorium has made my wife and I seriously reconsider living in this town if this is approved. I grew up in New Paltz. We moved to Highland because the taxes were better. You know, I'm a past member of the fire department. You know, I really wanted to raise my kids here, but the health effects that my kids would endure possibly with a crematorium next door to Highland Elementary, it's just too great a risk. So if any of you are parents, please find in your hearts to reconsider this. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here? That was the only one on Zoom, correct? Okay. We will keep the public hearing open until next month. Those of you who said you had additional paperwork to submit, please submit it to Sarah and she'll forward it to the board and we'll take it into consideration. Thank you all for coming. All right, so this is one everybody's been waiting for. Joseph and Belinda Christina, area variance 9 Elbow Lane, 80.3-2-27.114. Applicant is seeking an area variance for a shed to be located in a side yard, front yard. Review status, public hearing scheduled for tonight. Need to open the public hearing.
Hi.
Hello, how are you doing?
Um,
Believe the last time we spoke, we gave you guys some homework and I see you have done it. We even get a storyboard with this one.
so this is a drone
Mhm.
view. On the top picture on the left here, this is where the proposed shed is framed out. So it is. This picture's to show that it's a cliff, so you can't get to the back. From the edge of the house to this line here is 42.
When you say this line, it's to the building or?
Here.
Well, when you say to here, what are you delineating for to here? Is that the top of the slope? Is that the? Okay. Okay.
The corner of the shed, the back right here. Yeah, so it's 42 feet, and then so it's 23 feet from the front of the house. That would make it technically considered the front side.
Mhm.
So it's 23 feet.
So we'd asked you for some topo, which you provided us here. So, oh, no, wait, come around back up. So what, you two, come on up. So that's what I'm asking. This is, we had asked you where the septic and everything was, so.
Septic is here, right here.
Yep,
Even though this
so-
says septic is there.
Yep,
the septic
that's
is
what I'm
really-
saying.
Is really back here. So this is where the septic is, right behind the car. And then it goes out this way. Goes this way. But it's back further than.
So this is gonna be on your field?
No, the septic goes down the driveway this way.
Oh.
It's this way. It runs parallel with the driveway. This is away from the septic.
Really small, right?
And that's the problem. That's the biggest picture.
I can't.
See, the septic, the tank is right here, right where the car is. That's what.
Okay, so what you have noted here.
Yeah, see this was on what they initially said that was gonna be there, but the septic is here. It's right there. So I don't know why they could.
What's that square box on the picture?
That's what
That
we're
is-
talking about.
It's the frame, like that we squared out.
that's
We
the
squared that out,
sides.
yeah, we squared it out. Oh, this wood. This is a
That
wood
would be
frame.
the size
So
of the
if you
shed.
moved it back, you'd be on top of the septic?
Correct.
Right, and also there's a hill, it's a big slope
Yeah,
down
but
that.
that's the second picture shows you that there's no physical way to get into the back.
This here shows the cliff.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
How far over is this
Here's the
cliff?
other There, that's a picture, it's the whole way.
So
This is way back here.
this is the white car, this is right here, this is off to this side over here, this is off going this direction. So what they're saying is, this is their proposed, right? This is where they have it framed out. Like we always do, we're asking for minimal relief, so we want to move it this way. They're saying that the septic
It'll
is.
eventually go over
So
the septic.
we're gonna need to know, because you're showing the septic here now, and you're saying it's not actually here.
It's not there.
So we're gonna need to know where it actually is.
How do I do that?
Well,
It's already covered.
yeah, you're a builder, or you should have some kind of, because let me tell you, if it was supposed to be here and you didn't put it here, it's not legal.
I mean, they came out to the house. and looked at it.
I get that, and then the Board of Health should have some kind of documentation, because if it's supposed to go one location, you don't put it there, Board of Health won't approve it. So we just need as much information as we can
I like
to not.
the idea of the picture showing it really gives.
Maybe to bring it up, we should have an antidote for that.
Okay,
That you can see.
perfect.
It should be here.
Okay.
Thank you. Give me a few minutes to log in.
Look at that. Saved you a step.
Perfect. And I'm sorry, your question?
No, I appreciate it because this gives us the full perspective. We're looking down, this is where you want it.
By all means, we would love to have.
All right,
it.
I would have moved it back, way back, if I could have.
Yeah.
But then I was so petrified when we set this house up with the river. We couldn't go past, we couldn't grade past the line, according to them.
Seen it,
So
right.
I thought that there was no chance.
So-
I didn't even bother with it.
So, well, Sarah's bringing that up to do our due diligence. So on this side of the house, the reasoning we can't put it here is because it slopes away, right? So, right, what we're doing now is we're kicking ideas for the least relief possible. So to make it in compliance, it would have to be behind this theoretical line of the house. We're saying we can't put it here because there's septic. We can't put it here because there's an extreme slope. We can't put it here for the same reason. And we can't put it here for the same reason. So to narrow this down, to give you the least relief, if we can determine where the septic system is here and we can get it as close to being compliant, I personally would be okay with that. So yeah, so our theoretical line is here. And from here
What
to
is that white
here
thing?
is 23 in my pen.
Oh, that's a
right.
trailer. That's like a report.
Okay.
Looks like a little utility trailer.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get some orientation here.
The square of the driveway. It's not there. Huh?
All right, so the configuration of the driveway has changed as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so using the house line as reference. Your septic comes out over here. So you just block the driveway out a little further. Right? Okay. All right, and you're saying that the septic in relation to the white car is literally right on the edge of asphalt?
Exactly.
Because that doesn't show asphalt going
Exactly.
along that line. So you're saying that your septic is here and then it steps out in this direction? Because you were saying that it goes along your driveway, but it actually comes out over here, according to that. Okay,
Yeah.
so. Okay. I'm gonna say, if they locate the end of the septic or relatively close, so it's only better for you, so you don't put the building on your leach field.
The middle of that doorway. You gotta measure
I
back
don't-
and see how much the laterals are.
I don't see a feasible alternative to front yard. So
Yeah.
what do you have
This is proposed.
buffer or vegetation wise between
Right here.
the proposed shed and the view shed from the road? Is there, are there trees? Is it grass? Is it in this area right here?
Well, grass and we have trees down, they just cleared the land next to it. They took
Okay.
down everything. So whatever on a property line over is taken down. They took that down last couple of months.
Will the proposed shed be visible from the road?
No, because looking from the road, looking down, there's trees lining that side.
Well, that-
You-
So-
You might see.
So what we would need, and it doesn't have to be to scale or anything, blow this up for us. Man, I can't see this.
Mhm.
So we would need some kind of landscape plan for the view shed from the road to create. Yeah, so I'm sure it doesn't look like this, but we would need something for,
To break the side of the shed.
yeah, as a visual buffer
Yeah, we'll do
from the
anything you
road.
want. It matches the house. We did exact to the house.
Okay.
We went white with black roof and we did all.
Okay.
The last thing I want to do, we built this house. I don't want to ruin the house.
Right,
My goal
right.
is definitely not to ruin the house.
Right, and we don't want to ruin your neighborhood,
Yeah.
so that's why we're doing what we're doing.
I agree.
So I think, and the rest of the board jump in, but I think if you give us a landscape plan with what's existing, we can take a look, and if you feel that looking from the roadway towards the direct of the proposed shed, if you feel that it would be beneficial to add a tree, to add a bush, to block that view, right, so
You can always put them closer towards the road.
you can
don't
get
have to put
ahead
them
of,
up next to the shed. You can put them, so when somebody drives by the road, it's like a berm.
you can save a little time on the process. Put that in so we can visually see it, and it would be, it would save you a step. All right. With that being said, does any member of the board have questions, comments, concerns for the applicant? Okay, I would like to entertain a motion to set a public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Entertain a motion to open the public hearing for this applicant. Bill, Russ, all in favor? Aye. You guys can have a seat. We will ask any of the any member of the public if they wish to be heard on this application. No one here. Anyone via Zoom?
Mrs. Kelly was left, so she was a neighbor. She didn't stick around.
Okay, so as we always do, we'll leave the public hearing open, in case someone does want to comment next time. What we'll go ahead and do is with the stipulation of a buffer between the proposed shed and the road, we'll go ahead and do a draft resolution for the next meeting. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
See you next month.
Thank you.
Everybody's good with that? Good. White Jewels Holding LLC, area variance, 25 Phillips Avenue, SBL 88.69-1-22. Applicant seeking area variance to allow 4 units on a 0.51 acre parcel located in an R 1/4 zoning district. Public hearing scheduled for tonight. Okay, so when we last spoke, we had asked for some financials, and you've provided that. Did everyone get a copy of the financial statements with the similar area rents? Yeah, I think Sarah provided it.
It's on the page before that one you have right there.
Yeah.
Right, there you go. Turn it over, turn the
Turn it
page in your
over.
hand over. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. So. Anyone have any questions for the applicant before we open the public hearing? Okay. If you can step back, we're gonna open the public hearing, see if anyone has any questions, comments. I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Paul, I have a second? No. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Any member of the public that wishes to be heard? Step forward, state your name, your address.
Sure.
Are you guys all together or are you individuals or?
All neighbors.
Okay, so let's go one at a time.
Sure. You'll go first.
All right.
My name's Charles Gates. I live at 26 Phillips Avenue. I live directly across the street from the property. I'm not in favor of me personally having a 4 apartment next to another apartment. Whenever we've got an assisted facility down the road, it's an R1 rated neighborhood. And we like to have our, we bought this house thinking it's going to be just our neighborhood. It's our family, and that's it. The neighbors are feeling the same way. The place is unsightly. First of all, we'd really like to know what he'd like to do with it. Is he going to clean it up? Are there renderings of what it might look like? Because right now, if you're just going to powder coat it and shove people in there, that's not going to work. Because it needs to be fixed. It's unsightly, and I spent a lot of money on my property. We have it, we have lawnmower people come by, we take care of our property, we clean up after ourselves. We don't have these problems. And that's the way we'd like to keep it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ron Payne. I live at 24 Phillips Avenue, right across the street. I was a mailman in Highland for 31 years. Okay, and I've delivered mail to this house for 31 years. And it was originally a 1-family home. And when the owner, Casper Davis, passed away and his wife passed away, his daughter and her husband made apartments upstairs illegally, I think, in the long run. So that building is not zoned for 4 apartments. And right now, if you look at that building right there, that roof in the back last year had a tarp on it to keep the water from going in. And that building right there is an eyesore. And if you're just going to fix that, it's not right. That building needs to be torn down and rebuilt into a 1-family home, which the neighborhood needs. Doesn't need another apartment building there, especially with the stop sign right across the street. People run that stop sign all the time. You're going to have people living there with kids, somebody's going to get hurt. And I don't think it should be there. I think it should be 1-family home. And all my neighbors think the same way. I mean, we are the ones that have to look at that building every day when we leave our houses. And that building right there does not look right, not for Highland. It's not suitable to be a building in Highland anymore. And the original owner, Casper Davis, added on to that building, probably illegally back then. And he built that shed that's next to it. He had another shed in the front yard that he used to use as a workshop. It just doesn't look right in our village, in our town, or our neighborhood. And that's how we feel.
Thank you.
My name is Janet Pinavaya, and I live at 18 Elting Place. So my backyard butts their backyard. I don't know if you people ever saw a virtual tour of that, what's inside there. It's condemned. It should be condemned and knocked down. And I heard this right from the lawyers, who was Miguel,
Yep.
who was the owner. He was there one day, and I was walking by, and I was talking to a whole bunch of men in suits, and they basically told me this place needs to be knocked down. I just can't imagine them fixing that up and renting it.
For four people.
But
you know,
yeah,
four
to
families.
4 families, there's no way. The ceilings are caving in, the walls are caving in, the floors are caving in. You can't live in there. You just can't. And yeah, I don't want, we already have an apartment house that we never know who we're gonna get, and that butts my property as well. Sometimes we get good neighbors and sometimes we get, bad tenants. The owner of that apartment house lives up in Kingston.
Yeah.
He's very nice, Dan. I don't know his last name. But he'll come like maybe once every 2 weeks to cut the grass, and then he leaves. And that's becoming an eyesore as well. With all these, how many apartments does he have?
5.
He's got 5 in there. It's just, we don't want any more apartments. It's a very quiet residential neighborhood, and that's the way we want it. Is he gonna start renting people with dogs and cats and, it's just too much. It's too much. The place needs to be knocked down and a single family home should be built there. I just cannot imagine. It was a pigeon coop, and Casper, I mean, they were like real, pioneers. I mean, they used to trap possum and eat it, I mean, we're talking years. And he just added on and added on and added on. It's just not safe. The basement floods constantly. God knows what that looks like, with all the rain. No, I'm not in favor of it at all. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Timothy Darcy. I live at 22 Phillips Avenue. I'm actually here speaking on behalf of my mother, who lives at 25 Grove Street, which in those bottom 2 pictures is immediately off to the right there, alongside the house. My mother's family's lived in the neighborhood for 75 years. Everybody who spoke previously and said that was a single-family house that a large extended family lived in, and as the members of the family left, through whatever means, additional apartments were created in that building. I don't know how that came about. We knew there was 2 families living there, and then it gets advertised on the real estate pages as a 3-family house, and now you're coming here telling us that they want to do 4 families in that house. I don't think it's appropriate for the neighborhood. Again, it's mostly single-family houses. It is a non-conforming use. And I'm not a zoning guy, but I read in the zoning code that if a non-conforming use is unoccupied for a certain period of time, it reverts, the non-conforming use no longer applies. Again, I just don't think it's appropriate for the neighborhood, and I'm not in favor of it. And I wish you would take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Decker, and I'm the property owner at 32 Phillips Ave. So my property is right across the street from that house. So my first question is, has it been inspected at all after purchasing?
That's not
we're-
the process.
Yeah,
You're in the
That-
process.
right. That's
Okay, and then this, my second question, I have a couple questions. I know I have 3 minutes. If it's zoned for 3 apartments, which I was surprised, if you're gonna zone it for 4, does that mean there's gonna be additional building on it? Is it gonna go up? Is the structure safe? Does anybody know the answer to that? Have there been plans?
The footprint of the building does not change.
Okay, so they're gonna somehow work in a 4th unit, if that's what they're
The-
gonna do.
The exterior footprint of the building
Mhm.
does not change.
Okay. So, does this facility have, or this building have public sewer? It does. Okay. So if you, hypothetically, if you have 4 units in that building, what type of parking are you gonna have? Is it gonna be on the street parking? Is there gonna be a new driveway there? And since there's gonna be more people, there's gonna be more safety or more cops driving by? Has anybody thought of that, or has that been considered?
The parking, yes, it has.
Okay. I'm not really in favor of the 4 units. I know it's been divided into 3. My brother lives right next door to me. We share a driveway, and it's been a really quiet neighborhood, and he loves bringing, his son up there. So, I don't want to say I'm totally opposed to it, but I am opposed to having another unit in that building. I know that there's a structure next to it that has tenants, and I know that there have been problems there in the past. So I'm just concerned about the 4th unit if it does go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wish to be heard, either here or on Zoom? Okay. So we have a little more to consider, a little more homework to do.
Got a question for the owner.
Yep, if you want to step back forward, please.
My question is, how long is the place been vacant?
I don't know.
Guys,
No,
this is his turn. Thank
I'm
you.
asking him.
I purchased it in January of this year.
Was it occupied before that?
No, it's unoccupiable. Like they were saying, it's horrible inside.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And Anthony, do we have a relative timeline when the building was last occupied, when it was?
Probably pretty close right now, only because the tenants that were there when Miguel was sick, or is still sick, they were sort of squatting in there, not paying rent. I'd have to go back and look. My conversation was with a lawyer that was calling me because we were persistent about doing fire safeties on the building.
Right.
So I could probably go back and find some of the last correspondence, get an idea,
Okay.
but I don't know exactly when they would have moved out.
Okay. Okay. One sec. We'll bring you back up. Absolutely.
I have a question.
Okay. Doesn't kind of work that way. You'd have to pose it through us and then we could, from past experience, the back and forth thing doesn't kind of go, but we're absolutely willing to have you come back up. Hold on. Look, can you step back and and a member of the public can come in?
Just so you know, I delivered mail. I still lived there 39 years. That building has been empty for at least 3.5 years. Nobody's lived in that building for 3.5 years. The last tenant, like he said, was squatting and she got booted out. Cops came and took her out of there. So that building's been empty for about 3.5 years right now.
Thank you.
Nobody's been living in that building.
Okay, thank you.
And I know because I sit on my front porch every day and see them.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna do a little research on that. If you could give us whatever input you could. We're going to leave the public hearing open.
Excuse me, I got one for you. You have any permits that were satisfied for these apartments? Where,
Fire safeties.
no.
So was there a CO
Any for CO for any?
There's no CO on that tool. So whatever was done in the eyes of the building department, as far as fire safety goes, anything 3 or more units, we have to do inspections on.
Mhm. And you'd be able to provide us when the last inspection was for fire safety to determine whether it was habitable or inhabited at that time. Okay. Okay, and then you can also, you said you had correspondence with the attorney as well, if we could track that down to kind of narrow.
Yeah, we got emails.
Okay.
Okay, we just on a little track, timeline, sort of a timeline.
Okay, does any other member of the board have any questions, comments, concerns for the applicant? Okay, so we're gonna, as we always do, we're gonna leave the public hearing open. Gonna do a little bit of homework. And we'll see you next month. All right? Thank you very much. But that way. Thank you. Okay. One we've been waiting for. Come on up. Freeberg, Larry, area variance, 129 Costa Road, SBL 87.3-5-28.300. Applicant seeking an area variance for a minimum acreage to build an accessory structure with an apartment, which is a little bit different because it's an accessory structure that is an apartment. Okay, so we received your rendering for the buffer. I looked it over. It is pretty much dead on what we were looking for. So to just refresh the board's memory. So we had asked the applicant to do a landscape plan to block the view shed for the accessory apartment building, structure that is right there with the 2 arrows and whatever. As near as I can see, they did exactly what we asked. We were looking for some trees to fill in case the neighbor took down their trees. It looks like they did that. They had asked for a little bit lower of a buffer because they did not want to lose their view shed of the mountain house, which it seems like they did. They also did a little more because there was an invasive, I read on there was an invasive species, which they're going to remove and plant azaleas.
Azaleas.
So
all that blue line is all small, low plants.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, no, the azaleas grow to a height of 20 feet. So
But
can grow to a height of 20 feet.
right, but they're very manageable. They're a hedge. They can be also used as a hedge, a low hedge, or like you said, they can be a 20-foot wall.
Correct.
Personally, I think it's a good choice.
It also adds quality of planting to the neighbors versus the invasive Japanese honeysuckle.
Right, which I personally thought was a good move. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns for the applicant before we put it to the public? So if you guys would just step back for a second, we're gonna ask the public if they have any comments or questions. No, that's what we're gonna do.
We're gonna do it on the project.
So does any member of the public, either here or on Zoom, wish to be heard? Okay, that being said,
Make a motion.
step back up. I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make that motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstains? Okay. So we asked,
One thing about azaleas, the 4-foot creatures, we love them. And
The only way you can deter juniper.
Juniper.
There you go.
You learn something every day.
Okay, so from previous, from previous meetings, the only thing we were looking for was the landscape plan, which you have provided. So kind of speeds up this part of the process a little bit. All right. Whereas the applicant is seeking an area variance pursuant to the zoning code as follows. Dimensional table zoning, 2-acre minimum lot coverage. Proposed is 1.07 variance of 0.93 acres, which is pre-existing. Type 2 seeker, area variance requested. Okay. Applying the balancing test, standards require that New York State Town Law 267B3B, the applicant requested variance for ZBA makes the following findings. 1, the pursuant to Law 267B3B1, granting the requested variance for the project would not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the neighbors, so long as the applicant plant and maintain landscaping to screen the project from the neighboring properties. 2, pursuant to Town Law 267B3B2, the benefits sought by the applicant from the project cannot be achieved in any feasible way without requested variance, as their property is less than 2 acres required for an agricultural district or dwelling. Town Law 267B3B3, the requested variance is substantial. However, the project will not negatively impact the neighborhood character so long as the applicant plant and maintain landscaping to screen the project from neighboring properties. 4, 267B3B4, granting requested variance would not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical, environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, as it will not cause any environmental impact to the surrounding neighborhood so long as the applicant plants and maintains the landscaping to screen the project from neighboring properties. You getting a theme here? All right. Town Law 267B3B5, the applicant's need for the requested variance is self-created difficulty, but the project will not impair the public's health, safety, or welfare. That's my favorite one. Okay. So, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the variance as written. Motion?
Motion.
Russ? Do I have a second? John? Okay. Myself, it's an aye. Paul Gargiulo?
Abstain.
Abstain. Bill Brown?
Aye.
Aye. Russ?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Jessica? Sean?
Aye.
Okay. Start planting your bushes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Yes, we talk to you next. Think it's got easy, huh? Oh, no.
It's an adventure.
Here.
It's an adventure.
Here.
Okay. So the minutes to approve from the last meeting were insanely long. I read them. I did not find any discrepancies. Did anyone else? The minutes from last meeting, they were written well.
Yeah, but how are they gonna
They're transcribed just like these. And yes, and what I'm gonna do, just, and this could be public or whatever, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask Sarah to have those earlier than normal, if she possibly could. Because I think it's gonna help us do some research, because I know there's some stuff in there that I want to digest. So I'll ask Sarah to do that. So, yeah, yep. So, that being said, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written. Second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pay attention, you. Okay, this is my favorite one.
I make a
Minutes.
motion.
You did the minutes. Great.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.